History remembers the Ottoman sultans as rulers of vast empires. Their armies thundered across continents, their palaces glittered with unimaginable wealth, and their names were etched into the chronicles of power. But what if the true master of the Ottoman throne was never crowned at all? Imagine a shadowed figure hidden behind silk curtains, her presence felt but never spoken, her whispers shaping the fate of empires. She was called a wife, a mother, a queen, but in truth, she was something far more dangerous. She was a ruler in disguise, a puppet master in the shadows. And yet, today, her name is barely remembered. Was she forgotten or deliberately erased? To understand her rise, we must step inside the heart of the Ottoman world at its zenith. The empire stretched from the deserts of Arabia to the gates of Vienna. Its armies were feared, its wealth unrivaled, and its palaces dazzling in beauty. Yet beyond the throne room, beyond the battlefield, there existed another empire, an empire within an empire. The Sultan's harem, a gilded cage filled with intrigue, where loyalty and betrayal danced side by side. The world outside saw powerful sultans waging war, but inside those palace walls, another kind of war was being fought. And at the center of it all was a woman who would soon hold the fate of dynasties in her hands. But little did anyone know, a storm was coming. She was not born into power. She entered the palace as one among many, a woman surrounded by rivals, each vying for the Sultan's affection. But unlike the others, she carried with her more than beauty. She was intelligent, ambitious, and utterly fearless. While the Sultan fought wars on distant fields, she fought battles inside marble corridors. Behind closed doors, whispers became weapons. Coins slipped into the right hands could tip the scales of justice. A single rumor, carefully placed, could destroy an enemy without a drop of blood spilled. She learned quickly that in this world, survival was not enough. Domination was the only path forward. And soon, her influence grew. Ministers sought her counsel. Eunuchs obeyed her commands. Even the Sultan himself bent to her persuasion. But behind her graceful smile, darker plans were already taking shape. The turning point came when the question of succession emerged. The empire's future was uncertain, and rivals within the palace plotted to seize control. It was in this chaos that she revealed her true power. While men in council chambers debated, she decided who would live and who would not. One by one, her enemies disappeared, some silenced by poison, others dragged into the night by guards who took their orders not from the Sultan, but from her. The court whispered that the Sultan commanded armies, but in truth, every decision passed through her hands first. What if she had failed even once? What if her schemes had been uncovered? Would history look the same? Or would the empire itself have shattered? The climax of her rule came in a single moment of terror. The palace was cloaked in silence as guards gathered in the courtyard. The empire's fate hung on a single order. The Sultan hesitated, but she did not. With a mere nod of her head, the executioner stepped forward, and a rival prince was no more. The courtiers froze. The empire itself seemed to hold its breath. In that instant, the truth could no longer be hidden. The Sultan wore the crown, but it was she who ruled. Even the most hardened viziers knew. Displease her, and death would follow swiftly. Yet even in her triumph, shadows crept closer. Power in the Ottoman court was never permanent, and enemies never truly vanished. The aftermath of her reign was written not in blood alone, but in the ripples she left behind. Alliances she created reshaped the empire's politics for decades. Decisions made in whispers shifted the balance of wars, altered treaties, and decided who would inherit the throne. Yet her power came at a cost. Families were torn apart, trust shattered, and the empire itself haunted by the ghosts of her rivals. She had ruled without a crown, and yet her shadow outlasted emperors. Some called her the savior of the dynasty, preserving stability when chaos threatened. Others condemned her as a manipulator, a woman who placed ambition above blood. And so we return to the paradox. History remembers the mighty sultans, their battles, and their conquests. But behind the curtain, it was she, the forgotten queen, who truly controlled the Ottoman throne. Was she the most powerful woman in the empire's history, or just a pawn in a game dominated by men? Was she a protector, a villain, or the first true political mastermind of her age? Her name may be buried in silence, but her influence lingers like a ghost across centuries. The question remains, did she rule the empire from the shadows, or did the shadows themselves rule her?